Eiyuden Chronicles Hundred Heroes, the spiritual successor to the Suikoden franchise, has had its reviews on Metacritic, and things are all over the place depending on what platform you are playing on. Now, first and foremost, this is a PC game, it seems, from the reviews and from the development. I personally streamed the PC version of this game on my channel recently. I'll have a link for you guys in the description if you want to check out some of that gameplay and what I think. But I do want to talk about the Nintendo Switch version of it, because what exactly happened here with the Switch version? There seems to be a big buyer's beware on the Switch version of this game compared to the PC, Xbox, and PlayStation 5 versions of it, or just PlayStation, Xbox, and PC versions. So far, if you're looking on Metacritic, you've got 23 reviews on PC with a 78 average, so not bad. I went through some of those reviews and they're stating, hey, this is a pretty good game with some issues here and there when it comes to the encounter rate, when it comes to the structure, the bugs, some issues there, but overall an enjoyable experience if you're into Suikoden, if you like that old school style. Now, on the Xbox Series X, there's 5 reviews for a 72 average, so right in line in the 70s. It's different reviewers, so you're not always going to get the same, I would say, parity between all the different platforms, so just keep that in mind, guys. And then on the PlayStation 5, you have 15 reviews for a 77 average, so once again, right in line with the PC, right in line with the Xbox for the most part. I mean, they're all in the 70s. And then all of a sudden, you move over to the Nintendo Switch version. Now, there's only 4 reviews because I doubt that Rabbit and Bear and the developers wanted to give people the Switch version. And I think that's the reason why there isn't many Switch version reviews out there. But there's only 4 reviews, and it's at a 54 average. So that's what we're going to be breaking down in today's video. What happened with this game, because it's all mixed to pretty much bad at this point. So we're going to start off with Nintendo Life. They gave the game a 6 out of 10 and had this to say: Eiyuden Chronicles Hundred Heroes is the epitome of a flawed gem, the kind of game that does a lot of things right and we're sure will command a dedicated legion of fans, but has legitimate problems that are tough to overlook. The expansive narrative, gorgeous sprite work, and addictive combat all help to make an easy recommendation to any classic JRPG fan, but bear in mind that it can feel dated in its design philosophy and that the Switch version has a lot of performance problems, at least at launch. If you can get past those issues, this is an enjoyable and immersive RPG that mostly achieves what it sets out to do. So this is something that I saw quite a bit, even with my PC gameplay. It is very cool. If you like classic RPGs, if you like Suikoden, then this is a game that you might want to check out on whatever platform that you have. But the Nintendo Switch version has some extra performance problems that are not in other versions. Now, there are graphics and performance problems in most of the console versions from what I've seen, but the Nintendo Switch seems to be a system that wasn't properly optimized from the development studio. Now, next up is from Digital Trends. They gave it a 6 out of 10 and had this to say: as a Suikoden successor, Eiyuden Chronicles Hundred Heroes is perhaps faithful to a fault. Its war story is better than those found in most Fire Emblem games. I don't know about that. And its vibrant cast of characters are a highlight. The turn-based battle system is one of the best I've experienced of its kind in recent years too. It's just a shame that frustratingly retro RPG design and lacking quality of life features put a damper on the whole journey. With a few adjustments, Noah's story could have been a better tale to bring back from the front line. So once again, it's a game that they feel does a great job with the story, that they feel does a great job with the setup and everything, but there's problems in terms of quality of life, the features that we've seen in modern tactics games and modern RPGs that are just missing here. And I have to once again agree with that, especially when playing on the PC. Apparently, the encounter rate, according to Jason Schreier, is tied to the frame rate. So if you're playing at 60 frames per second on PC, you're running around and like you almost never get into battles. It takes forever and there's random battles. Instead of actually having the enemies on screen in the field, it's random battles throughout, whether you're inside of a dungeon or an area or you're on the field, which I think there definitely should have been enemies that you can see on the field instead of tying it to your frame rate or, when it comes to encounters. That was a bad idea. They definitely should have made it to where you can see your enemies on there and you can just run into them and fight them at your leisure. Very similar to Star Ocean the Second Story R, where the enemies on the overworld map, you can see them and you just run right into them and fight, and then they constantly spawn. So if you want to fight, you can. If you don't, you can move around it. So definitely a little bit of an oversight on their end. Now, next up is from Siliconera. They gave it a 5 out of 10, and they stated this: on a PC, I imagine Eiyuden Chronicle might generally be fine, but on the Switch, it is a mess. 5 out of 10, they were not happy with it, and yes, the technical problems is an issue with the Switch version of this game. Now, last is Nintendo World Report. They gave it a 5 out of 10 and had this to say: playing 100 Heroes feels like a burden, and even more so when you consider the high caliber of RPGs that have already released in 2024 that it might be taking your attention away from. Any moments of joy the experience offers are immediately dashed by baffling game design choices that would feel antiquated at the turn of the century, let alone decades after that. Were I not reviewing the game, I would have put it aside after a few hours and never thought about it again. Oh my goodness. Eiyuden Chronicle comes after scores of excellent and successful turn-based RPGs from which it could draw inspiration. Instead, it neglects so many of the lessons learned throughout the years in favor of outdated, tedious gameplay. So this is something that is going to, I would say, divide some people. Some people want that old school type of gameplay where you get the random encounters no matter what, and you get all these different types of things in there, and that's fine if you want that. But there's going to be a split of people that want you to modernize a little bit from what we've seen. Now, what games is Nintendo World Report talking about that they could have drawn inspiration from? Well, there's Triangle Strategy from 2022. There's Octopath Traveler 2 from 2023. There is a lot of games that they could have looked at and said, okay, now some of those games do have random encounters and certain things, but there's ways to adjust it overall. And the vibe that I'm getting from reading a lot of the reviews, even not on the Nintendo Switch, but on other platforms, is that they did a lot of weird things with this game, despite how long they had to develop it and the amount of money they received and backing, that there is a surprising amount of missing quality of life features and other things to round out this experience that you would see in other AA RPGs, the HD 2D games that we've seen from Square Enix, and even games like the Mana series, for example, like let's say Trials of Mana, where there's a number of quality of life and different things that are done to improve the experience. And the fact that the game is not running well on Switch is probably one of the worst things. I've seen people even say, oh, Nintendo needs to hurry up and make a Switch 2 because of a game like this. And I'm thinking to myself, but wait a minute, Triangle Strategy and Octopath Traveler 2, yes, they don't run at blazing fast 120 frames or 60 frames, but they run way more stable and look just as good, if not better, than this game. Plus, we have infinitely more demanding games on the Nintendo Switch that run better, like The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Odyssey. It's a full 3D platforming game that runs at near 60 frames per second, portable mode on the Nintendo Switch. So that's not really an excuse to say, oh, well, we need more powerful hardware. That's great, and I understand that some people feel that way when it comes down to it. And yes, more power would definitely probably help a bit with this, but at the same time, this is a pixel art type of game. This is not pushing the boundaries of graphics on anything overall, and we've seen more demanding games on the platform perform better from a technical perspective. This is a sloppy code. This is a bad port overall so far. So I think that's the biggest issue that we're running into here, that the Nintendo Switch version, in terms of what happened, they simply did not prioritize this version of the game. But even if they did, there still are a number of lingering issues. Now, once again, you can be split on those things. Some of those old school design aspects and the type of game that it is, you can say, hey, I like that, it's not a problem. But there's definitely going to be people that say, not necessarily for me. So what's next for them? Well, they've already announced that there will be a sequel that they're working on. So I think a lot of these things that are an issue in this game could be, I would say, fleshed out for the sequel. They have a lot of funding in terms of what they had there. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be money left over, especially since this game was a Kickstarter game, so the development was already funded. Anything that they sell at this point is going to be profit for them. So I think that's the reason why they're already heading into that sequel. It also gives people confidence to say, hey, this isn't going to be a one and done. You can simply pick up the game, and yes, there might be some issues, maybe there's going to be some patches, and then you can play it, and then it will continue. The story will continue going on after you beat the game. You don't have to worry about it being a one and done, and there'll be more to this story if you enjoy the characters and if you enjoy everything. I do feel that it's going to be interesting to see how people react to the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remaster, because if you remember, that game I think was already supposed to be out by now, and it was delayed, I think from last year. Don't quote me on that, but it was delayed. I know there was a delay for the game, and they're trying to make sure that it's in the best shape possible. Did they run into some of the issues on all the platforms like the Eiyuden Chronicles developers did? They might have, and they decided to wait and see, and then make sure that they have, or they did different things to where it wouldn't fall into the same pitfalls. But remember, it's the original games, but they just have to make sure everything runs and looks good across all the platforms, because it's coming out pretty much on everything for the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remaster as well. So very interesting nonetheless. I do think that some of the reviews when it comes to PC, so if you want to pick up this game, I would say PC is the platform to do it. I have not gotten a, I would say, good beat on how it runs on Steam Deck. So if you want a handheld experience, it seems like Steam Deck is probably the best way to experience that. And the Nintendo Switch version probably is not the best way. Also, Jason Schreier wrote that there was other issues that he had with the game when it comes to recruiting certain characters. There was a bug based off of certain things that you do. So depending on who you talk to or what's going on, you can have a vast array of opinions on Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes. But I'll say this, as a debut type of RPG that has that spiritual connection to the Suikoden franchise, it's not terrible when it looks at this PC version or the game itself. They just need to do a number of things to shape up the experience for the next one. And now that they have the systems and the mechanics and everything built out, the next game in the series is probably going to be considerably better than this one, because this is their first real shot as they put everything together. Game development is not easy, and I think that hopefully they have some patches, especially for the Switch version, to make sure that things are kind of smoothed out a bit, because I think a lot of people that want to play this game actually would love to play it on the Nintendo Switch. That might be their preferred platform to play this type of game. Take it anywhere that you want. It's a long RPG, up to 100 hours of content, 40 hours to get through the main story. So a lot of people would probably want to play this on their Nintendo Switch. So it is what it is for right now. So that's essentially what happened to Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes on the Nintendo Switch. So what do you guys think about the reviews so far? Are any of you guys planning on picking up the game or playing already? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch and RPG videos right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.